Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a review video. We're going to be testing out a new beauty sponge from Real Techniques. This is the Real Techniques Bold Metals Collection Miracle Diamond Sponge. It's a diamond shape that's white with a little bit of gray marbling in it. And it says on the back, this multifaceted miracle diamond sponge is designed to work with multiple products on different areas of your face. No two sponges are alike, each has its own swirl design. Oh wow, that's so much softer than I thought it was gonna be. It looks like it would be really kind of stiff, but it's actually already very soft and squishy. So on the back of the packaging, there's a definition for the design that they used. The top, it says, is to buff and blend for a flawless finish. The smaller flat sides, if you can tell, it literally looks like a diamond. So its smaller flat sides are to work around the mouth, the eyes, and the brow bone. The larger flat sides are to function as a wedge to apply makeup to large areas, and the pointed tip is to cover small imperfections. And it is latex free, which is a great thing. I basically was shopping in Ulta and I went to go pick up another one of these. These are amazing from Real Techniques, the beauty sponges, but this miracle sponge caught my eye because it's something I haven't heard anything about, and it looks really interesting. So I thought I would give you guys my first impressions and my review and let you know what I think about it today. I've got no base on whatsoever, as you can tell. All I have is my regular First Day Beauty Ultra Repair Cream, which I always have. I didn't want to try any new primers or moisturizers underneath my foundation because I really want to give this guy a full-fledged review. So I'm going to use just my regular stuff, my regular products that I wear on a day-to-day basis to apply this. I do have my eyes done and my brows as well, so we'll apply foundation with this, and then we're also going to apply concealer and maybe do a little bit of baking as well. Now, you don't necessarily have to get this wet. It says on the package specifically that you can get it wet for dewy application, or if you want more of like a full coverage look for powders, then you don't have to get this wet. But I'm going to wet it because that is what I always do. So I've got me a little bowl right here that I can stick it in and really soak it in. Alright, so I'm using the Makeup Forever Ultra HD foundation. I'm going to go by what the directions says to do, and we'll see how that works out for me. The top is supposed to be used for buffing and blending for a flawless finish, and the larger flat sides for function as a wedge to apply makeup over large areas. Okay, so really I think you can do either one. You can maybe start applying with the edge and then maybe buff it all in with the top. And I don't know, I'm not gonna necessarily just go straight onto the sponge because the sponge is going to soak up a ton of that product. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to put it on the back of my hand. I wouldn't recommend using a sponge like this for a stick foundation because they're already kind of dry. They don't have a lot of give to them, a lot of liquid. So applying something like this where it picks up a lot of the excess and buffs it out, it's just a lot harder to do that with a stick foundation. So just for this purpose of today, I'm going to use this with a liquid because I feel like that's kind of what the purpose is for a liquid foundation. Now, I don't know if it's supposed to be like this, where the point goes upwards, or if it's supposed to be downwards. I don't know if it matters. Yeah. Kind of like it like this better. You know, the handling of it feels more comfortable. Wow. I don't see any sort of lines, or I was afraid to because this is there's so many different lines and angles on it that it was going to be kind of streaky and show the lines when applying it, but actually it didn't at all. It actually looks really smooth. Let me bring you guys in a little closer. Let's get up close and personal. This foundation is a little bit dark for me, but we're just gonna act like it's not. I'll blend it down the neck. I'm not digging this whole angular thing. I feel like it's kind of hard to grip. I feel like it's gonna pop out of my hand at some point. I don't know. And I feel like it's really hard to get full coverage and get it all around. Like it's kind of leaving some spots kind of bare. So I'm gonna try and apply it with just the top portion and see how that does. It's soaking in a lot of product. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna apply it with my fingers because the back of my hand situation's not working out. Having me use a lot of foundation, but I normally do when using a sponge type applicator because of that. It's kind of hard to get a little bit closer to my brows without messing them up. So you can kind of get a little bit closer into that brow with the foundation. I'm able to get really close with the angles and this tip and make sure that it's all nice and clean and covered. So I am really liking that aspect of it. Alright, it says that the pointed tip is supposed to be used to cover small imperfections. So I'm going to use some concealer and we'll see if that's true. I'm just going to dab it in there. It does have probably a little bit of foundation left, but that is fine. And I'm gonna place it where I see like a blemish, and then we'll see like how well it blends it out. It's nice if you want to apply some sort of spot correcting, just to kind of dot it on wherever, but it doesn't blend it out, so you'd have to use another side to blend it out. Okay, and then it says the smaller flat sides work around eyes, mouth, and brow bone. So I wouldn't use this for like a working around brow bone necessarily. It's just too bulky, these sides are. Now maybe for like the mouth section, or maybe my eyes. We'll try the eyes out and see how I like the sponge for that. Let's use some Shape Tape concealer and see how this goes using the sponge to conceal under my eyes. I don't know if you can tell, there's like little streaks here, and that's because, like I said, the surface area is so much smaller. It may be good for getting a sharp line underneath, which, you know, I'm thinking, yeah, it is great for doing that, getting right up under the wing, getting a crisp line of concealer under there. But as far as buffing it out further from there, like, I don't like the streakiness. I want it to look buffed and blended and flawless. Now the pointed tip, I'm gonna see if that works. I feel like it's still not quite, like, you could still see the purple under here, and normally Shape Tape covers that really nicely. I feel like it's just kind of dragging everything down. I'm like patting it in, I'm not dragging it, but it seems like it's still kind of displacing the product in this area. So I don't really like that, and I feel like it is too kind of building and caking underneath the eye here. Such a big difference. Like, do you see the difference right now? This side, Real Techniques Beauty Sponge. This side, Real Techniques Miracle Sponge. Like, you can clearly see the discoloration under my eye. You can still see some of my freckles. So I feel like this guy might be really good for a powder application. I'm gonna let this dry for a little bit while I finish up my face, and then we're gonna try it with some loose powders and see if that is, you know, a good purpose for this sponge. Alright, so I have applied my under eye powder. I used my regular Maybelline Fit Me powder, and then I finished up the lower lash line. So now that this is slightly dried, it's still a little damp, but we're gonna go ahead and apply loose powder. It is okay to apply powder, loose powder, with a sponge that is slightly damp still. It's just going to help the powder stick onto the skin even more, and it actually prevents the skin from looking super dry, and it looks a little bit more, like it just helps it sink into the skin a little bit more. So the powder I'm using is RCMA. This is not, it's in a Laura Mercier tub. I keep it in here because the RCMA powder, the actual packaging sucks. First, I'm going to apply just regular pressed powder all over using this and see how that works, and then we'll go ahead and go in with a loose powder. So for pressed powder, I'm just literally going to press it into the powder and see how this works out. So as far as this for pressed powder goes, I do like this. I am really liking the flat side of it. I just find that it's really easy to get in this pressed powder and just dab it all over my face. My skin is really looking good. So now what I'm going to do, since that's all nice and mattified, is I'm going to finish applying my powders and stuff, bronzer, blush, highlight, all of that, and then I'm going to come back and use this one last time for a sort of baking contour. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to dip this into my RCMA powder, into the tip and like the angular sides is where I'm going to dip it. So I've got that much powder there, and I'm just going to put it on its side and see if this gives me the angle that I want for baking. Oh yes, honey. Girl, I really like this. This picks up more product and it's a little bit wider, so it'll place it and really kind of stamp it on in more of a like large quantity. I'm gonna let this sink in for a little bit, and then we're going to really dive into what my final thoughts on this guy are. Alright, so my final thought on this Bold Metals Collection Miracle Diamond Sponge from Real Techniques is so-so. There's parts of it that I really like and parts of it that I really didn't. So I'll just break it down for you. As far as the flathead goes, I think the flathead is great for really kind of buffing everything into the skin. Now, because it is flat, I really don't think you get a full-on buffed application. Because it's a sponge, it does soak up extra product, which is nice. Now, you're not able to really like pounce or kind of massage things into the skin that you might be able to do with something like this that's a little bit more rounded. I do find that as a drawback for this flat surface, but overall it is nice for getting product on the skin and letting it sink in, and doing that in a quick way too, because there's so much surface area here. But I just don't think you're able to buff it out quite as much. I do like the fact that this is pointed, so you're able to really get around your brows nicely. So if you wanted to apply your brows first and then apply foundation, you definitely could do that using this product to really get around the edges of the eyebrows and make sure that foundation doesn't get in your eyebrows or mess anything up. You can always just kind of buff it with the sides as well. The sides are supposed to be used to kind of buff around your eyebrows, your mouth, and your eyes as well. I did not find that it did anything for the mouth region, and underneath the eyes I felt like it didn't really do anything either. It's just a very awkward shape to be sitting here like this, and it isn't really able to get into the very corner of your eye easily as well. You'd think this side here would be easy to get into here, but really, like I said, it just leaves your concealer looking very streaky and triangular because of the shape of the sides of the diamond. So for application purposes, I'd say stick with the flat side. You'll get an okay foundation coverage and blendability. It's not phenomenal, but it does the job. This is a little bit cheaper than the beauty sponge. The beauty sponge is $8.99. This is $6.99, so it's just up to you. As far as concealer goes, like I said, the concealer application was not great. It was able to get right up in here, but it left like streaky concealer marks, kind of in a triangular shape, and it didn't buff things out very well at all. I think it's the perfect shape to really get in my pressed powder and to apply everything really nice and smoothly. The angles really give you that sharp line underneath your contour where you're able to kind of bake and leave your powder sitting and then wipe it away, and it just leaves your contour looking really nice, crisp and defined. So really like that aspect of it. So honestly, I'm a 50-50 on this guy. Would I buy it again is the real question, because that to me, if you're not willing to buy something again, then it's not worth it at all to, it might not be worth it at all to anybody else. So to me, would I buy this again? I'd have to say no. I'm able to do everything with this, and it blends things out so much nicer. I'm able to get underneath the contour or the concealer areas, buff that in super nicely with this point, but it's also rounded, so it buffs things out nicely in the grooves of the eyes and the nose here. So, and then as far as the line goes, like I'm able to do that here as well. It doesn't give you quite as much of a crisp, like long line as this does, but I don't really see that as being an issue. I don't really bake all that often, so it really is not that big of a deal for me. And as far as like setting goes, like I'm able to set with this, or I could just use one of these that comes with my setting powder, and it works just as good, honestly. And then the final thing, the brows. Yes, this is nice for getting around the brows, but honestly, I'm not going to keep something around just for that purpose. Like, I'm going to just be a little bit more careful with this sponge, or maybe even try using this side, but it's just not as good as this one. And if you have an extra $2 to spend, you might as well just buy this guy and stay away from this one. That's just my honest opinion, so take it or leave it. I hope you enjoyed this video, this review. I am going to be doing some more reviews on my channel. I want to get into reviewing things a lot more for you guys and giving you guys my first impression, real raw opinion on things. So if you like that, give it a thumbs up, please subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.